Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei had different gauntlet and marry 6 girls? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Nefarious doctor for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. A young man with short red hair and wearing a plain white shirt with blue sleeves and jeans was waiting outside the station for someone. This person was going to be rooming with him at the inn and help him out. If I remember correctly, according to his file, he is a pervert, so I'll have to warn Sakura about him, but he has a kind heart and personality. He's kind of like me, he tries to help others, and when they ask if he could do something for them, it's dying by a harsh situation or committing suicide. That's just dark, even I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And apparently, he's a loner. These 2 idiots seem to abandon him all the time when caught, parents still love him, and that's about it. I still can't believe Taiga even got him a job. It amazes me what she can do when she calms down and doesn't try to strangle me for food. A picture of a chibi Taiga working as a serious teacher appeared in his head, speaking with authority and waving her ruler in the air. The picture disappeared when he heard the train pull in and stop. He saw a few people come out of the station until he saw a teen with brown hair and eyes. He had a rolling suitcase with him and a pair of sunglasses sitting on his head. It almost looked like he was going on vacation. Sherm shook his head at the side and waved at him. The brown-haired teen saw this and looked at the photo, before seeing it was the same person and ran to him. Hello there, name's Issei Haidu. Former resident of Kuo City, and I'll be rooming with you for the rest of the summer. Sherm was surprised by his mannerisms before introducing himself. My name is Shermamiya, and I look forward to working with you. Just a few house rules. 1. No pervertedness in the house. 2. You'll be working a part-time job and doing your schoolwork. 3. You'll help around the inn. And 4, welcome to Fuki City. Issei nodded and shook Sherm's hand. I accept. I'll do my best to help. I know I don't look like the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm not stupid or a jerk. You need help, I'm willing to lend a hand. Sherm likes his new roommate's attitude and leads him to the inn before giving him a tour of the house and ending with his room. Issei thanked him and put his stuff away before pulling out a photo with him and his folks before saying, I'll make you proud of me. I'm sorry for the embarrassment I placed on you. He also saw his deck that he received in a package a few days ago before coming to Fuki City. Flashback. Issei just heard his parents were going on a cruise and decided to send him to another city where he will be living with another resident. Wait, I'll be in another city for summer. But why? His parents looked at Issei, and his mother took his hand and said, son, we love you and we hate seeing you alone with no friends or even a girlfriend. Those 2, Mitsuda and Motohama, aren't your friends. Real friends don't betray another when caught, and we don't want you to waste another year of Kuo Academy. The man you'll be rooming with is working part-time and a great person. Since you're already on a 3-month vacation, this will be perfect for you. Just please know that we do love you and we just want you to be happy. Please understand. The father placed a hand on Issei's shoulder and said, I know that you got your pervertedness from us, but we wish for you to have a good future with a wife and some children. Please forgive this old man. Issei was shocked but realized they were right. He only had those 2 as friends, and they never really hung out if it wasn't for any perverted reasons like watching X material or reading X magazines. Also, it would be good to at least get a girlfriend. He looked at his folks and said, alright. I'm in. I promise to make you proud of me. One day before leaving for Fuki City, Issei was preparing his suitcase and made sure everything was in there before his mother came and holding a package. Issei, a package came for you. Did you order anything? Issei shook his head. No, I don't remember ordering anything. Are you sure it's addressed to here? His mother nodded and pointed to the address. It says it's addressed to you. There's no return address, but your father already checked and no bombs inside. Issei looked at the box and opened it carefully. Once opened, he saw a deck box and wondered, what's this doing here next? Why was it sent to me? He thanked his mother, then she left Issei with his devices. Once she left, Issei opened the box and saw that there were 7 cards, and each of them had a picture of a character. The first was a man wielding a spear. This one was Lancer. When Issei touched it, he saw a man with a blood-red spear, a green-haired woman in a forest with a sad look on her face, and a blonde-haired woman with a double-edged sword. Issei shook his head and went to the next card, unknown to the Lancer card glowing brightly. The second was labeled Archer. When Issei touches it, his vision is clouded with a picture of a catgirl with green hair and running in a foot race, and then switches to a woman with white hair wearing a white outfit and wielding a golden bow. The vision disappeared and Issei went to the next one and didn't notice that this card flowed like Lancer. The third was labeled Saber. When Issei touches this card, he's brought to a battlefield and sees a blonde woman wearing a red knight's armor, fighting another blonde woman in blue knight's armor. Then a fox girl wielding a sword, after that a vision of a dark-skinned girl wielding a rainbow sword, looks in the distance with a look of indifference on her face. Issei never saw the card glowing as he moved to the next card. The fourth was Caster. His thoughts were brought to magic warriors, but as soon as he touched it, a pink-haired girl came into view with a sad look on her face. The vision then changed to Egypt with a dark-skinned woman wielding a staff, and a large mirror with spirit surrounding it was behind her. Then it finished with a black-haired girl with a Maiko outfit and wielded a staff with rings on them. The fifth was Assassin. This card revealed him being back in Egypt, staring at a woman with long green hair and a golden serpent behind her. It changed to a little girl running in the streets wearing a cloak and had daggers in her hands. Then the image changed to a purple-haired woman with big eyes and wore a very seductive attire, and another person appeared next to her in a black cloak with a stump for an arm. The sixth was Rider. The visions start with a pink-haired pirate woman flying on a ship and firing her cannons on her enemy. The next one revealed a woman in priest's clothing, speaking with her hands clasped together as a dragon approached her. The final image is of a pink-haired girl wearing a white coat riding a carriage and holding a whip in her hands. Issei shivers at that before moving to the last card. The seventh and last one was Berserker. The first person was a girl wearing a British uniform and had pistols in her pockets. The second was a girl who was in a wedding gown and had a giant staff in her hands. The last one was of a white-haired woman, covered in armor and had a chain connected with two large spike balls, one on both ends. After that the images vanished and Issei was back in his room. He didn't know why, but the cards felt like they were calling to him. He then decided to keep them and hopefully one day figure out what their purpose is and why he was given them. Little did he know he would find out soon. Then flashback. After dinner, Sherm and Issei were getting ready for bed. Taiga stayed and talked with Issei about his job. So you're going to be a sales associate where you'll start with learning the ropes and hopefully get better soon. This company works with video games and I thought you'd really like it since you're a teenager and you look like a gamer to me. Issei was surprised at the position, but a question was bugging him. Mrs. Taiga A hand stopped him. Call me Taiga. Issei sighs and says to Taiga, how did you get me the job? I'm not ungrateful, just a bit shocked. Taiga smiles and says the owner of the company is an old friend of mine and she has been needing a teen's perspective, so I told her about our new resident and she asked me if I could offer him the job. I said yes, you would take it. Praise me for my kindness. Issei and Sherm, who were listening in, sigh at the teacher's behavior. Issei said you're the best. Thank you. Taiga smiles and ruffles his hair. Good, now it's time to get some sleep. You'll be meeting with her in the morning at 9:30 am sharp. She left in a flash, surprising both males with her speed. Issei got up from the bed and looked into the sky before saying, I wonder how this summer will be. Fun and exciting or boring? Guess we'll find out soon. He then crawls into his bed and turns out the lights. A brown-haired, twin-tailed girl was in a room, standing in the center of a strange circle and saying to herself, now the time for the summoning. Issei was in his bed sleeping until he heard his alarm clock wake him up. Beep. 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 The off button was touched by a hand from the sleeping child and said child groaned before climbing out of bed. Issei shook his head a bit and walked to the bathroom, then brushed his teeth, washed his face, and brushed his hair to a more tame hairstyle. Issei was a little sleepy but now awake as he made his way back to his room and got his clothes on for the first day of his new summer job. He heard a loud yell from the kitchen and ran to the room to help. He opened the door only to see Sherm and Taiga wrestling each other and the purple-haired girl smiling with her eyes closed as if this was a regular thing. Issei scratches his head at the sight before saying good morning to everyone before grabbing a bowl and getting some of the soup before blessing it and eating his breakfast. He glanced and saw two bentos on the counter. One must be for Taiga, that woman could out-eat a hungry dog. The purple-haired girl stares at him and smiles at him before introducing herself. Hello, my name's Sakura. I'm a good friend of Sherm and I hope we can get along. Issei, for some reason, saw the light of the room enhancing her beautiful purple hair and eyes, but was brought out of his thoughts by a pair of fingers snapping him out of it. Issei blinks until Taiga has a smirk on her face and says be careful Issei. Sherm will get jealous if you try to take his girlfriend away from him. Issei looked at Sherm and Sakura, both of them blushing in a storm, until Sherm said we're not dating. We're just friends. Sakura agreed but looked a little hurt by the statement. Issei sees this and makes a vow to get the two together. He could see how much she cares for him and vice versa. Hell, they acted like a married couple already. He heard a laugh in his head as he made this vow. Taiga looks at the clock and in 3 seconds grabs her bag, says goodbye to everyone, and rushes to school. Crap. I still have tests to grade for summer school. Good luck Sherm and Issei. Issei was surprised at the woman's speed and asked, is she like this every day? Sherm and Sakura looked at each other and said all the time. Issei laughs a little until he sees the clock and how it's 8:45 am and his job starts in less than an hour. He quickly finished his meal and was about to leave until Sakura said, "Wait, you forgot your bento." Issei was surprised by the girl's kindness because the only woman who was this kind to him was his mother. "Would you make me one? Didn't Sherm tell you about me?" Sakura just smiled and said, "I see you're a kind person at heart and I do hope we become good friends." She then hugs him, which surprised him because of the girl's kindness and th from her. It just felt like any man would be lucky to have her. He looked at Sherm and gave him a thumbs up and mouthed, "She's a keeper." "Nice work." Sherm blushes and returns to his meal. Issei says goodbye and runs to the station to catch the 9 am train that can get him to his job quickly. He barely made it and was able to find a good seat before looking over his belongings. Alright, wallet, check. Phone at 100% battery life, check. Bento, check. Alright, everything's here and now to relax until I've reached my destination. He relaxed in his seat and saw the city behind him. Time froze as he saw two people stand out in the crowd. One was a girl wearing a red dress with a twin-tailed hairstyle, and a bit far from her was a little kid with white hair and a purple dress with a big white hat like the British soldiers. The two looked at him like they could see him. He was a bit surprised until time was back to normal, and Issei couldn't help but wonder at the girls. Who were they? Why were they looking at me? His thoughts were disrupted by a voice saying Central Fuki City, now approaching. Issei saw the title and thought, my stop. He got up and grabbed onto a handle above him and waited for the train doors to open. He glanced at his phone and saw that it was 9:10 am, which meant he still had 20 minutes to go. The door opened and he ran out without bumping into anyone. He looked at the address and found a city map next to the station. He found his destination and sprinted to his workplace without stopping. I can't be late on the first day. I need a boost in speed. Boost. He heard that word and was surprised at his speed until he saw his workplace just ahead of him and stopped at the door to catch his breath. Man, what was that? I've never sprinted like that unless I was running away from the kendo club. Later, right now I have work to do. He opens the door and sees a brown-haired twin-tailed girl with a childlike body but assets the size of an adult wearing a magic girl outfit. She quickly jumped into Issei's arms and said, "Hi he. My name is Magical Girl Levi Tan. Starting for the rest of the summer you'll be working here with me, testing all of my newest games and ideas. I hope we can get along well." Issei was taken back at his boss's personality but decided to act as formal as he can. "Hello, my name is Issei Haidu. It's to meet you and I look forward to working with you." Levi Tan stared at him and hugged him while nuzzling her face next to his cheek and said, "Oh. You're so cute with those innocent brown eyes and that smile. Also acting so formal makes you even cuter." Issei wasn't sure whether it was a compliment or an insult but decided to get to work. "I'm sorry for sounding rude, but if you don't mind I would like to know what I'm going to be doing here." His boss looked at him and dragged him to her office before sitting in her chair and said, "Well, you'll be my assistant. You'll be working by my side and help me with anything I need. There's also a game that I want you to test. In a way, I'll be a gopher kind of guy. Get the papers, the coffee, all that jazz." She liked her new assistant and said yes, "But I should warn you we're a little different than any other business. Know that I am your boss but also your friend. If you need to talk to someone, know I'm here to lend an ear." Issei bows and says thank you. "So when do I start?" Levi Tan said, "Right now. Oh, and by the way my name is Seraphol Leviathan. Remember that?" Issei nodded before following her. Seraphol introduces him to everyone and shows him the different areas of the workplace. The dining facilities, the workstations, the front desk, and explains the benefits from working here. Issei was ecstatic and asked for his first assignment, which earned a few points for Seraphol, seeing his determination to do a good job on his first day. She brought him back to her office and showed him a slideshow. Now video games and superheroes have become very popular over time, and so we decided to make a game that combines two things that teenagers and adults love: virtual reality and fighting heroes. These games will allow others to be in a fantasy world and fight monsters, collect rewards, and make their character into the strongest hero or villain. The games are called FGO or Fate Grand Order. Issei liked the idea before asking how would the VR system work. She grins and pulls him to a gaming chair that has a helmet attached to the top of the headrest. She walks over to it and says you'll be sitting in the chair and the helmet will scan your body and face to imprint your ID. Each helmet will have a different ID number, so no one can use or take them from someone else. The helmets will only work for that one particular person it's scanned. You move your character with your mind in the game and it automatically saves the info that was in the game for a month. There's also a girl clock that you can use in the game so you can keep an eye on time outside of the VR. At the start, the game Slinky allows you to choose one character, but there's a special event item you can find that allows you to change classes, but since you're beta testing it, you'll automatically receive it, so have fun with it. Issei sits in the chair and feels the helmet sit on his head, and his body instantly relaxes as it scans his face and his eye to register him. The screen is blank but pops up with a box asking, would you like to start a tutorial? Yes or no? Issei mentally said yes. And the yes option was selected. It brought him to a room where an NPC was waiting for him and said welcome to the hero's training arena. Now first select your class. Oh wait. You already have a special item. This item will let you use all 7 classes. Would you like to customize them to your liking? Issei replied yes. Serafo was observing how Issei was beta testing the game before heading back to her office and began her paperwork for the day. She looked at Issei through the security camera and said, I know you're special. I wonder if you will use your power for others or will you crave for more power? At Fuki High School, evening. Sherm was asked to do some maintenance on the AC units so they would be ready for winter, and being the kind guy and hero of justice he is, he accepted it. People may call him naive and a fool, but that's his dream and no one will stand in his way. He is curious about Issei's place of work and how his first day was, so he wanted to hurry up and get home before Issei did so they could talk. Little did he know that both of them would meet someone new tonight, and it was in a good and bad way. Fuki High rooftop. Rin Tasaka was standing on the roof of her school with a man, dark-skinned and wearing black armor with a red trench coat, standing next to her. Archer, do you sense that presence? The man named Archer turns to the school entrance and senses a presence similar to a servant. I do. How should we approach this? Rin glances and says go to the servant and see what class they are, I'll catch up as fast as I can. Archer nodded and vanished into thin air. Issei was walking to the school because Sakura asked him to. She said Sherm would probably stay too late at the school and he would need some help leaving, so she asked him to take him home for her. Issei agreed because he was eager to talk about his first day. He approached the gate and was walking to the archery club. Sakura told him where he could find him and noticed that the lights weren't on. He saw the bow and played with it a bit before pretending to shoot it. He suddenly saw the forest. He heard a laugh and turned to see a girl with green hair and cat ears. She looked at him and waved hello. He waved back and asked, who are you? The girl adopted a sad look and from the looks of it was disappointed by the question until the vision disappeared from sight. Issei was back in the archery club. Issei was suddenly caught off guard when he heard a bow shooting an arrow. He dropped to the ground and rolled behind the targets. What the hell was that? Archer was surprised that the servant dodged. He must have good instincts. He said to himself before moving inside of the club room and had 2 swords in hand, one black and the other white, and looked for the servant. Issei was frightened until he saw that the intruder was away from the door and saw how he could bolt it until Archer said, you know, for a servant, you're pretty cowardly. Are you an assassin or are you just a new servant in the war? Issei was caught off guard because he couldn't understand what this guy meant. Servant, assassin, what is this guy talking about? He saw the door and bolted to it while holding the bow from the archery club and had an arrow with him. He ran to the school as fast as he could. Alright, once I make it to the school I'm safe. He almost made it to the school if not for the swords being plunged into his back. He turns and sees Archer without his swords and his arms out like he threw them. He had a look of dissatisfaction on his face and said, are you really a hero? You're literally more of the cowardly type and yet you have the aura of a hero, what are you? Issei fell to the ground on his legs and bled. Is this it? Is this really the end of me? I never even had a girlfriend. I love my job and want to continue working there. I don't want to die. My parents would be heartbroken by hearing this. I swore to become better and I don't know what's going on, but I can't just die here. He looked to the sky and put his hands together and prayed, dear God, please forgive this soul for being a sinful one. I ask for your forgiveness and to stand up once more to see my mother and father. He sees Sherm, Sakura and Taiga. I want to be with them again and have dinner with them. He looked at Archer and said, please give me the power to stand on my own 2 feet. In Jesus' name, amen. He clutched his head as an image of a red dragon and the catgirl wielding the black bow appeared. They both looked at him with a small smile and the next thing he knew was that he would be a force to be reckoned with. Archer started to walk away until he felt power explode from the dead servant. He turned and saw the swords dissipating from his back. The boy was standing up and he glared at Archer with an angry look that scared him a little until he saw an illusion of a girl and a dragon behind him. Issei pulls a card from his pocket and says include Archer. Green energy exploded from around his body and covered him in an aura like it was healing and helping him stand up. He looked at his arms and saw that he had a metal gauntlet on both hands that covers his hand to the middle of his arm. Picture Ember Celica from RWBY. Issei pulls out the arrow from his person and a black bow is summoned in his hand. Issei loads the arrow and pulls it back. As he did this, green wind started to blow from around him and a voice was heard saying boost. The arrow was glowing red. Archer looked at the arrow and summoned his own bow and pulled back an arrow of his own before launching it at Issei. Issei looks at the arrow moving slowly and he says, "Goddess of running Atalanta, guide my arrow to my target." The image of the girl appears next to him and places her hands on his own and guides him to shooting the arrow. The girl said, "Shoot now, my emperor." He did. The arrow flew and the wind from the arrow blew away the arrow from Archer off course and continued its path. Archer was so surprised that the arrow hit him head on. Issei decided not to stick around and ran to the school. Once inside he saw that he now has a black bow and a pair of gauntlets on his person. He looked at them before saying thank you God. He cried a little before running to find Sherm. Outside of the school, Rin caught up to Archer and saw how he had an arrow in his shoulder. Archer looks at the spot where Issei was before saying, "I don't think he's a servant. I believe he's an anomaly." Rin was surprised by this fact before tending to Archer's wound. Issei would expect a visit from her soon. In the school. Issei saw Sherm running away from the area and stopped him. "Sherm, you okay?" Sherm stopped and saw Issei before catching his breath and said, "Did you see a crazy blue-haired guy wielding a spear?" Issei shook his head no and noticed a blonde woman in blue armor was next to him. The image of a similar woman appeared before him, but this one had red armor instead. He shook away the thought and asked, "Who's this lady?" Sherm looks at the girl and says she calls herself Saber and says, "I'm her master." Issei was surprised before remembering what Archer said before looking out the window and said, "Sherm, I think I know someone who can help us." Sherm was puzzled until he looked out the window and saw Rin Tasaka. "Do you know her?" Sherm nodded and saw someone standing next to her. "Who is that?" Issei answered by calling himself Archer, but the weird thing is this. He prefers to use swords more than a bow. The woman named Saber said, "I suggest we retreat for now." Issei and Sherm nodded before leaving through the back unknown to the spy observing them. The blue-haired man wearing skin-tight armor had his spear behind him and observed the fight go down. "Gotta say, I'm looking forward to fighting that kid with the gauntlets. This is gonna be fun." He vanished into the night. Sherm, Saber and Issei were able to get back to the inn and relaxed once they made it to the kitchen. Sherm put on some tea. While he did that, Issei asked Saber about the one he saw in red. Saber had an angry look on her face and asked, "You describe someone who I despise with every fiber of my being." The Saber card glowed red hot, but Issei was the only one who saw this and suddenly his eyes changed green. He looked at Saber and said, "It's someone personal, isn't it? Family?" She flinches. "Bingo." Issei puts his hand on hers and says, "Look, I don't know why you hate this person and frankly I don't care, but what I do know is that family is always there for each other. No matter what, a child needs love to grow, they want a family that cares for them, and you make it sound like you couldn't care less if your own child was abandoned. Would you do that to a child, just abandon it to die? If you did then you don't deserve the right to be king." The Saber card stopped glowing and Issei's eyes returned to brown before he shook his head a little to clear his mind. Saber and Sherm, he placed the tea on the table, were shocked at this declaration and didn't know what to say after that statement. Issei saw the look and said, "I'm actually a third child. My father told me about mom giving birth and having 2 miscarriages before me. A boy and girl. I would have had older siblings, but they died before they even had a chance. Mom and dad prayed at a shrine and asked for a child, and so I was born. They named me after the shrine and loved me ever since. I'm happy to have such a great family." He cried a little before wiping the tears away. Sherm and Saber saw this. Sherm can somewhat understand since he was an only child and lost his only family, his old man. Saber, on the other hand, never gave her child the time of day. She didn't give her son love or attention, she had her duties as king and tossed all feelings away. All of them were enjoying the tea until the power went out, causing Saber to summon her sword in preparation. "Sherm, there's a servant here. I sense its presence." Sherm was shocked and asked, "Where is the servant?" Saber pointed outside in the backyard, but they were not moving, just waiting. Issei's hand flexed like it was holding a weapon in his hand. An image of a blood-red spear appeared in his mind and vanished. Issei ran outside and saw the servant waiting for him. "A blue-haired man with light blue armor," said the man had a blood-red spear. Issei's eyes widened as he said the name of Gabolg. He looked at the servant and a memory of the man appeared in his mind, along with a woman with long purple hair and wielded 2 spears that were similar to the one the man had. The Lancer card appeared in his hand and everyone from the house in Kuchulainen saw this and smirked. Include, Lancer. The card turned into 2 blood-red spears and Issei's eyes changed red. "It's been a while since I was a pupil. How are you?" Everyone was shocked at the female voice that came out of Issei. Saber thought he was another master of the Holy Grail War but possessed a card instead. Gu smirked and readied his spear. "Good to see you again, master. Never thought I would see you appear as a kid. It's kinda hilarious." Hahe's spear was embedded in the tree and made a small cut on his cheek, causing his laughter to end. The red eyes narrowed and readied the next one. "Don't insult my master. Remember your place, dog." Issei ran and skillfully batted away Lancer's spear and lunged right at him. It became a clash of blades, spear versus spear. The two became blurs of red and blue. Saber and Sherm could barely keep up with them. Is this really a battle between servants? Saber nodded and observed the boy who was using the spear with ease. Is it because of the card or the spirit within the card? The blue warrior stopped and had a look of irritation on his face. What do you mean? I can still fight. A scowl appeared and then sighs. My master is a bit of a coward and has ordered me back. Let's put a pin in this. Oh, and master, take good care of the kid. Issei smiles and waves goodbye and Lancer disappears. Issei looked back at Sherm and Saber. I know you have many questions, but I believe it's best if we discuss them inside. Also, invite that child at the door and her servant as well. The voice called out, there's no need, we let ourselves in. Rin and Archer appeared behind Sherm and Saber, shocking them with their presence. Issei's body collapsed on the ground, alerting all of them. A groan was heard, and Issei picked himself up and felt like he ran a marathon. Issei saw that everyone was looking at him and noticed that's the guy that tried to kill me. Rin, Sherm, and Saber looked at Archer, who huffed in irritation and looked away. The Lancer, Archer, and Saber card glowed red before four figures appeared before them. Issei knew their names immediately, Scottish, Atalanta, Mordred, and Suzuka. What are you guys doing out and how do I know your names? The girls looked at him, and Mordred walked right up to him and hugged him out of the blue, surprising almost everyone except Issei's servants. Thank you, Issei. Your words were truly kind and pure, thank you. She blushed before leaning into him, but a hand pulled her back. An angry cat was yelling, I was the first one summoned so I get first. Besides, he likes cat girls rather than fox girls. Suzuka growled and got behind Issei and put her tail in his hands. Not true, master, do you like cat or fox girls better? Issei couldn't say a word until Scottish clapped her hands to get their attention. Now. I'm sure we have a few guests we need to attend to and answer a few questions. Sherm, make some more tea and bring out some snacks. This will be a long night. Sherm could only nod as he went to prepare the snacks, and Archer followed him to help. Rin has a smirk and said he has a harem. This is like a soap opera. Saber nods as well as she watches her son fight with a fox and cat girl. Unknown to them, a purple-haired woman, a big brown giant, and a blonde woman with features that put even Ria's, Akeno, and Tamamo to shame, watched a boy struggle against the clingy women. The purple girl and giant left to see their master, and the blonde says a powerful queen deserves a powerful king. Become stronger, my love. She then vanished from sight. Scottish said, now you probably have many questions, but first let me explain the situation he is in. Issei has 7 cards that can summon different spirits, however the Lancer and Archer cards only had myself and Atalanta. The others have 2 spirits, but Issei has to be in the situation they were in, or they contact him so he can meet them. We were the ones who had a stronger reaction to him, so he instantly knew our names and was able to understand our powers. Still with us. Everyone nodded and Issei took over. From what I was able to deduce from the day I received the cards, they can show me their past, and also I can either summon them when needed or they can summon themselves. When they run low on energy, they return to the card in order to recharge themselves, how long I don't know. Rin and Sherm were surprised by the army he has, but by how mature he's acting and taking this predicament. Rin had to know, are you going to participate in the Holy Grail War? Archer interfered. He can't. He didn't summon a servant by normal means. Even though he has servants, he can't enter as one of the official servants since he has multiple. There can only be up to 7 masters and 7 servants. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Sherm was surprised that he couldn't enter the war, but asked, how does the war work exactly? Saber answered for him. The 7 servants fight until only one stands. The last servant and their master can use the Holy Grail to make a wish. That is how the Grail comes out, by using the souls of the fallen servants and, sometimes, the masters. Rin added, you have to register for the war at the church. It's not abandoned and the priest in charge of it is the watcher of the war to make sure the rules are followed. Rin got up and said, it's best we go ahead and get you registered with Sherm. That way you can also ask for the rules for the war. Issei asked, can I come along? I would like to check it out, just for curiosity's sake. Sherm asked, don't you have work tomorrow? Issei shook his head. No, tomorrow's Saturday. We have the weekend off. Kodaman Church. Before they left the house, Issei asked his servants to go back to the cards so they wouldn't draw too much attention to them. They agreed and compiled that until Atalanta snuck on the cheek from Issei. Mordred and Suzuka were furious, but Scottish had a curious grin on her face before disappearing back into the card. Rin, Sherm, and Issei went to the church. Saber had a coat to cover herself in order to hide herself from other servants. Inside of the church was a statue of God and a stained glass window behind it. Sherm and Rin were talking about the man who supervises the war, but Issei just looked at the statue and kneeled before it and said a small prayer, thanking him for granting the soul the power he was given. An image of a priest woman with a giant dragon appeared in his mind and switched to a griffin flying through the air with a pink-haired girl on its back. Issei blinked before he heard. "Ah, fellow believer. And Rin, my little girl." Issei turned and saw a brown-haired man with a priest's attire and noticed something on his left hand. Rin wanted to get this over with, so she said, "I brought him here for his incompetence in Magicraft and for not knowing of the war. I gave him the main points of the war, but can you explain his position as a master?" Issei agreed. "Indeed, I would also like to know about this war and what reason do these servants fight." Kirei Kodaman was surprised by the man and noticed something off about him. His eyes widened a little until he smirked and looked at Sherm. "I'll cut to the chase. In this war, you have a stigma on your left hand. That is what helps you control your servant. However, once you run out of command seals, they can run and go wherever they may please and make a contract with another master. Masters give power to the servant so they can fully materialize and fight with their full power. It would seem you haven't unlocked your full strength. I hope Rin can help you with that." Rin scoffs before he continues. "You can't just pass it on to anyone. The 7 masters for the war were chosen by a ritual because those 7 were chosen to fight in the war." Sherm was about to ask about Issei, but Issei stomped on his foot before he could ask. Issei asked instead, "What does the Holy Grail do for the victors of the war? Money? Power? Status?" Kirei smirked and extended his arms to the side and said, "Anything to your heart's content. You could even go back in time and change your life. However, you must win the war in order to achieve the Grail." Kirei walked to the podium and asked Shermamiya, "Are you going to participate in the war? It would be a shame if someone unworthy were to claim it and harm others." Sherm gasped, "Anyone could claim it." Kirei nodded, "But only the servant can touch the Grail, not humans. The servants were brought by the Grail, and therefore only the servants could touch the Grail." Sherm looked down and thought about having the power to go back and change time. Issei thought of nothing, for he didn't wish for something like money or power. If he was still his old self, he probably would have his dream harem granted, but after the talk with his parents, he wished to be better for them and himself. Sherm looked at Kirei and said, "I'll do it." Kirei smirked, "Excellent, I look forward to seeing your performance." And with that they left. Kirei saw them leave and turned to the woman watching them. "Who do you think will win?" The woman came out and looked at the door and smiled. The answers were simple. "My lover and king." Kirei was shocked at the response, and the woman left him alone. Outside the church. Shiro and the others were outside. Saber still had her disguise on and was looking down the alley as if she saw something they couldn't. Sherm thanked Rin, but she brushed it off. Issei thought of his servants and the cards and wondered who could have sent them to him. Saber's eyes widened. "Sherm, everyone. We need to leave now." The little voice carried out through the wind. "Aw. Don't leave yet, we haven't had any fun yet." A little girl came out of the fog with a giant of a man behind her wielding a stone axe. The man growled at them, just itching to slice them up. Issei saw the girl and recognized her as the one who he saw this morning from the train. The girl curtsied and introduced herself. "My name's Ilya von Isenburn. To meet you, big brother Sherm and Rin." Sherm was surprised and Issei asked, "You know the kid?" Sherm shook his head and couldn't recall ever meeting her. Ilya looked at Issei and her eyes widened with stars and said, "You're the anomaly. The one with the cards." Issei was surprised and asked, "How did you know?" "I never told you nor actually spoke with you." Ilya just smiles. "I know a lot about the participants in the war. For example, that girl, Sakura, is a master as well. But enough of that. Time to die. Berserker. Kill the servant and get me the anomaly." Berserker roared and charged at them. Saber jumped into the fight and parried a sword while dodging the swings from the giant. Issei felt a power within him react to the fight and the image of the dragon appeared in front of him. "Are you going to just stay back and watch, or are you going to fight?" Issei's mind spoke for him. "I can't fight that. How am I supposed to go up against that thing?" The dragon sighs in disappointment. "I never thought my host would be such a coward. You have my power as well as other warriors and heroes inside of you, and yet you refuse to fight." Issei was shocked, but the dragon continued, "Call my name. You know it. I've been with you ever since your birth. You're weak now, but with training you could possibly become stronger than my greatest host. Now shout my name." Issei looked at the fight and flexed his fists and shouted, "Boosted gear." The gauntlets appeared on his fists and Issei grabbed the saber card and shouted, "Include saber." Mordred. The last part was whispered so no one heard him. The sword appeared in his hand and it had a crimson aura to it. Rin, Ilya, Saber, Berserker and Sherm were shocked by this. Issei opened his eyes and one was green but the other was brown. Issei had a smirk on his face and ran to the giant and swung his sword at him. Berserker swung and met his sword. The two clashed and Saber leapt into the fight and cut Berserker's sword arm, but it didn't faze him as he'd punched Saber with the other arm. Saber clutched her chest as it hit a sensitive spot on her. Issei met Berserker again, and the Gauntlets shouted boost. 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 The sword glowed red with power, and Issei swung the sword and cut off the sword arm of Berserker. He was about to charge again until a chain shot out and clashed with the sword, making Issei retreat. The figure descended and revealed to be a voluptuous woman with a blindfold and long pink hair and a revealing outfit. Ilya looked grateful and said, "Let's go. That's enough for one day. Hope to see you soon." The giant disappeared and the woman looked solely at Issei before disappearing as well. Issei stood his ground and the gauntlet said reset. He collapsed but didn't hit the ground thanks to the sword for supporting him. Sherm checked on Saber while Rin walked to Issei and carried him saying, "You're one scary person, Issei. I hope we become good allies in battle." Issei just nodded as well and looked at the moon and said, "Let's win this war." Unknown to them, a woman from a temple smiles at the fight and prepares for the inevitable battle. Issei's inner world. Issei was in an arena where he saw 9 different gates. One was labeled as Lancer, Archer, Saber, Caster, Assassin, Rider, Berserker, and the last 2 showed a scale that was used to balance 2 objects and a flaming skull. Issei looked around and saw that a large dragon was in front of him. The dragon was large and red with green eyes. The dragon smiles and says, "It's good to see you again as a partner. How are you feeling after unlocking my power?" Issei was taken by surprise and remembered the battle against Berserker, unlocking Drake's power and using Martyrd's power. He looked back at Drake and said, "Thank you, partner. Looks like we'll be working together for a while. By the way, where am I?" Drake laughed a bit and said, "This is your inner world, or in other words your soul. The cards that you received in that package were able to connect with you. But what about those last 2, Avenger and Ruler? I never found those cards." Drake thought of this and said, "Perhaps they are within you and you haven't unlocked them yet. They must have connected to your soul automatically but have not awakened yet. I believe in order to awaken them, you must wake up the other classes. Right now you've only used Archer, Saber, and Lancer. By the way, they wish to speak with you, but you can only go into the gates one at a time. Choose the first. We'll discuss training later for now. Good luck." Issei went to the Archer gate and pushed it open. As he walked in, he noticed a forest and a battlefield were mixed, giving it a peaceful but memorable look. He heard someone running through the bushes. He quickly turned around and got tackled by Atalanta. The catgirl snuggled up to Issei and rubbed her head against his chest and purred like a kitten. It's so good to see you again." She looked at Issei's eyes and helped him up. "The others are coming so they should be here soon." Issei had a surprised face and asked others. Atalanta nodded and 2 more voices rang out. "Atalanta. No naughty business unless you're in a room." A white-haired woman with a teddy bear on her shoulder came out and spoke to Atalanta like a mother scolding her child. A pair of hands wrapped around his waist and he turned to see a black-haired girl with red eyes and a general's uniform. She smiles and hugs Issei a little more tightly thinking he would vanish from the spot. Issei noticed this and hugged her back. Issei was surprised by the number of spirits in the Archer gate. "How are there 3 spirits here? I thought it was only you, Atalanta." Atalanta sheepishly rubbed the back of her head and said, "Well, funny story. We drew lots on who would be the first to reveal ourselves, and I won, so you were able to summon me first as your Archer. You can use the others too. In fact, we actually made a schedule for you so you can learn how to use the powers of each class." The white-haired one pulls out a sheet of paper that shows a brief schedule. Monday, Archer and Lancer. Tuesday, Saber and Caster. Wednesday, Assassin and Rider. Thursday, Berserker. Friday, Drake. Saturday, all-out fight. Sunday, rest. Issei actually liked the schedule because it worked out well with his work schedule. "So I presume, when I'm sleeping I'm coming here to train with you guys or when I have time off?" Atalanta nodded. "Indeed. If you train here with us then you'll be able to get a better understanding of fighting with our powers. By the way, the others want to tell you their names unless you know them already." Issei looked back at the girls and like a memory that was just remembered, he knew their names. The white-haired one looked at him and he said, "Artemis, the goddess of the hunt." He looked at the red eyes Archer. "And you're Oda Nobunaga." They smile at him and Artemis runs and hugs his head into her chest. It took all of his willpower to not make a goofy face until Atalanta snuck in and hugged him as well. Issei enjoyed this embrace and remembered the other gates. "This is nice, but I would like to meet everyone else. I promise to live up to the expectations and will not destroy the faith you've placed in me." The girl smiled and let him go. Issei was in front of the Saber gate and walked in. He saw a massive dojo with a large fighting arena on one side and a golden theater with shrines on the other side, surrounded by cherry blossom trees. He felt a blade connect to his neck and said, "Hey there, Musashi. How are you?" He turned to see a pink-haired girl wearing a purple Japanese obi and a blonde voluptuous woman with green eyes and a red and white dress. She looked like a queen from a foreign country. A cheerful voice rang out, "Issei." He turned and got tackled by Suzuka, and the fox girl enjoyed running her cheeks on his face, then listened to his heartbeat. Mordred and a dark-skinned woman wearing a white veil on her head and wielding a rainbow sword. "You're Attila, and the blonde green eyes woman without the armor is Nero, correct?" The two smile and hug him with th in love. Nero jumps into the air and says, "It's great to finally meet you, master. I'm truly happy to meet you." Attila smiles, "Me too. It's an honor to finally see you face to face." Miyamoto huffed and turned away from the group. Issei got out of the hug and snuck behind Miyamoto and noticed her near the lake. He lifts his hand and smacks her round. She leapt and almost fell into the lake if Issei didn't catch her. She was an inch away from the water. Miyamoto saw the look in his eyes and glared. "Issei, don't you dare do what I think you're thinking." Issei just had an innocent look and said, "Do what, drop you?" He let go a little and she yelled but was stopped. Issei pulls her up and gives her a big hug. "Ha ha ha. I'm sorry. Forgive me." She was furious but couldn't stay mad after seeing the innocent look on his face. Fine. But do that again and you'll receive a sword through your ass." Issei smirked and edged her nose, making her blush and run to the dojo. "You're such a jerk. Ha. She cried with tears coming out of her eyes. He turned to the others and asked, "Too much?" Attila nodded. Nero and Mordred did a so-so motion. He felt a tug pulling him out. Realizing this, he turned back to them and said, "I'll come back. I promise." Mordred put a hand on his shoulder and said, "We know. See you soon." He vanished into thin air. He opened his eyes and saw a vast frozen wasteland, but strangely, he didn't feel cold. As he turned around, he saw a giant castle that reached the sky. A red spear flies and impales the ground directly in front of him. A certain purple-haired woman jumped off the castle and landed on the tip of the spear before spinning off of it and pulling it out of the ice. She looks at him and smiles. "It's good to see you again, my pupil and my love." She closes in but suddenly backs away from the purple spear embedding the ground where Scathach was. She was touched when a woman with long hair came out of nowhere and pulled Issei close to her and called her a spear. It flew into her hand and she positioned herself between her and Scathach, but Issei was swiped out of Brynhilder's hands and into another white-haired woman with a white cloak on her and a long nagatina. The three had a glaring match until a pink blur stopped down and grabbed Issei from the clingy women. "Sorry old hags, but the dragon is mine." She looks at Issei and leans into him while flying, but spears were flying in the air and tried to hit Elizabeth. "Ah. Hey, watch it. You almost hit my lover." Her tail swished like an angry lizard and stopped when Issei was feeling her tail. He grabbed it like a lifeline, but didn't know what he was doing to her as he held on. She blushed and tried to get her tail away. "Wait, stop. I'm very sensitive in that area. Especially at the tip of my tail." She couldn't finish her sentence as the tip was being rubbed. "Ah." She flew down and Issei just realized this and on instinct put his fingers in his mouth. And whistled. Out of nowhere a fire dragon flew out of the sky and caught both him and Elizabeth. The dragon descended to the ground and let them down. It nuzzles Issei with its nose and Issei rubs it with his hand. "Thank you, fire goddess Quetzalcoatl." Scathach and the others were shocked until they saw the fire dragon become a woman with Amazonian tribal attire and hugged Issei with so much strength Issei started to see the light. Scathach was surprised and asked, "How are you here? I thought servants of other classes couldn't enter the other worlds unless Issei summons you there." He also didn't use Rider's power, so again, "How are you here?" Issei looked at the Amazon woman and had a look of interest. Quetzalcoatl smiled at Issei and said, "You actually did awaken the Rider card at the church. Remember the statue?" Issei remembered the statue and how he prayed to it. So that's what worked. He looked at her and asked, "Is it possible to go to the Rider's Gate? I would like to meet everyone." Quetzalcoatl looked at the Lancers and they nodded in reply. The tornado of fire surrounded both of them and they vanished. Scathach looks at the spot then turns to the other Lancers and says, "We need to train him in becoming even stronger. He can pick things up quickly as long as he has the will to push himself. Let's make sure he remembers he isn't fighting alone. He has us. All of us." The others nodded and prepared themselves to train him. The last gate was the Rider Gate. Quetzalcoatl brought him to a forest where a great pyramid was and Issei noticed a barbecue with a few more ladies. A woman with red hair wearing a crown and a white cape. A samurai woman with a long ponytail and a katana on her side. A voluptuous blonde woman with a little white-haired child talking with a voluptuous pink-haired woman, both of them wore pirate outfits. The last one was a priest girl with long purple hair and a staff that seemed familiar with him. Issei walked over and asked if he could have some of the meat. Quetzalcoatl smiles and offers said meat. As he sits down, the child sits on his lap and looks at him with puppy eyes. Issei couldn't say no and complied. As he rubbed her head, he looked at the girls. It's good to see all of you, Ushiwakameru, Budias, and you too, Little Mary, Pirate Queen Francis Drake, and Saint Martha. I do hope we can get along and learn together. He bows and Martha goes up to him and hugs him. I know you miss your friend, but we will guide you. Don't lose faith in your family. We're more than that. Whenever you're worried or scared, talk to us and we'll work it out together as a team. Issei didn't know that his eyes were leaking a kind tear from hearing the heartfelt words come from her. For the longest time he always wanted to feel this th of friends, but never had it at school. But now with the girls and Sherm, along with Sakura, Rin, and Taiga. He's truly happy and will make sure this feeling stays. They all hug him and, unfortunately, he feels he is waking up. It's time for me to wake up. Please teach me all that you know and in return, I promise to be a good friend. He smiled until he vanished from the gate. They smiled as he left and nodded to each other as they looked at the spot he left in. We'll work hard too, Issei. Our king of domination. Issei's bedroom. Issei woke up and noticed that Saber was awake and right next to him. Saber saw him awake and said, "Good, you're awake. We have some good news, so it's probably best to freshen up first and come to the dining room." Issei did feel like taking a shower, so he got up and noticed it was the evening of Saturday. Surprised by this, he quickly moved to the shower and bathed until he was clean as a whistle. Luckily, he remembered to bring a change of clothes, so after he got changed he walked to the dining area where Sherm, Rin, Saber, and Sakura. Sakura had a sheepish look on her face and said, "You probably already know this, but I'm the last master. Former master of Caster, and Caster is the master of Assassin. Unfortunately, I'm no longer a master, so I can't be of any help." Issei looked at Sherm, and he placed a bowl of katsudon in front of him. "Here, you need your strength." Issei nodded and ate while gesturing for Sakura to continue. Sakura saw this and began her story. "My brother Shinji went missing just 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard from him since. He just vanished into thin air. I summoned Caster but was hoping for Ryder, but I couldn't. Caster was kind at first and summoned another servant to serve as assassins. I don't recognize him, but he was very kind and called me Little Lily. Sadly, just yesterday, everything changed." Flashback. Sakura was on the ground by magic and Caster was using a binding spell on her, while Assassin was forced to watch this happen in front of him. Caster pulled out a dagger that had a zigzag shape and pulsed with magic. "This is my noble phantasm, Rule Breaker. It allows me to sever magic and contracts, for example." She stabbed Sakura, but she didn't feel pain. As soon as it was pulled out of her, she tried to use a command seal, but noticed they were gone. Looking back at Caster, she smiles wickedly and says, "You're no longer my master. I don't need you to get what I want." She turns to Assassin. "As for you, I can't have you hate me, so I'll just do this." She puts him to sleep. "As for you, you can go to your little friends, but as for me, I'll be at a special temple. Oh, and I have a new servant to obey me. She was difficult, but she kneels before me." She opens a portal and looks at Sakura one last time before saying, "I don't know where your scumbag brother is. He is either dead or a master of another servant. If you wish to find me, come to Ryudu Temple. Farewell." She walks into the portal and Assassins floats into the air and follows her through. The portal then closed. Sakura was able to move and knew she needed help, so she went to her one true friend who was always there for her. Sherm. And flashback. "After that, I came to her and told them everything. Please forgive me for deceiving you." Issei put a hand on her shoulder and said, "I forgive you." He looks at Sherm and mouths, "Thank you." Issei smiles and lets Sakura go. Rin took over then. "Alright, now we know where Caster, Assassin, and I believe Ryder is probably there. Issei has Berserker and Lancer is still a mystery to us. For now, we should focus on the temple. But why would Caster even go there? It doesn't make any sense." Saber materialized her sword. "We should attack at once." Sherm stops her hold on Saber. "We don't know anything about them, so it's best we come up with a strategy." Saber had enough of this coddling her like she was a weak maiden. "Sherm, servants were made to fight. I'm already fully healed and ready to fight. Do you think you can win this war without fighting? Do you?" Sherm had an angry look on his face. "I'm sorry, Saber, but you're not going and that's final. Don't make me use one of my commands." Saber had a shocked face and glared at him. "Sherm, you're a coward." Sherm finished this fight. "I'm not arguing with you anymore about this. Issei, can you handle the dishes?" Issei was almost done with his meal and gave a thumbs up before returning to his meal. Issei didn't say anything because he knew Saber was right, as was Sherm. There were too many risks, but he had a plan tonight. Sakura and Rin shared a room while Sherm got ready for bed. Saber was in the dojo looking at the moon through the window, and her choice was clear. "Sorry Sherm, but I'm not running away from my dream." Issei was getting the dishes put away and had a feeling he wasn't going to be alone on this late mission. Evening. Saber woke up and made sure to be as quiet as possible as she snuck out of the inn. She got outside and walked quietly to the entrance and failed to notice a figure watching her. The figure decided to go his way to the temple. Alright, the northern entrance is the most obvious choice and probably guarded by a servant, so it's best to go through the true south side. The figure went around to the back of the temple and started to climb the trees to gain ground. He got to the top and grabbed binoculars he borrowed from Rin. There were skeleton warriors and no servants in sight. Option A. Sneak inside and avoid the guards. Or option B. Fight my way in. He decided option A, Operation Shadow Walker, is underway. The assassin card glowed faintly as if responding to this idea. He saw a platform just a few feet away from him and tried to calculate the distance. He walked back to the bottom of the branch and tested it before running on it before jumping at the tip of the branch. He was getting close and grabbed onto the platform. Then pulled himself up. Huff. 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 Wow. That completes my workout for the day. He saw a spot where there were few guards. He slid down and needed a disguise, so he grabbed the first thing he found, a cardboard box. Sighing to himself, he went all Metal Gear and used the box to get past the skeletons. Luckily, they were too stupid to notice a moving box, and said figure made his way to the door. He got out of his disguise and made his way in. He found many rooms and tried to be as quiet as possible. The card glowed faintly as a shadow mist formed around him. Issei noticed this and saw the card react to him. He pulls it out and says include assassin. The mist covered him and dispersed quickly. He was now covered in a black cloak with a skull mask on his face. He took off the mask and noticed his right arm had a stump of bandages on it. He shrugged this off and made his way to one of the rooms. He saw a paper that had the words Holy Grail on them. He walked to the paper and looked it over. So that's her plan. He pulls out a phone and takes a few pictures before putting it away. Step 1 complete. Now for step 2, getting out of there. He looked out the door and didn't see anyone there. He held his breath as he made his way to the courtyard and noticed that the skeletons are gone. He saw his chance and ran to the wall, but stopped as two nails attacked him from the sky. A figure flew out of the night sky and landed on her legs like a cat. It was Ryder. How amusing you are. Caster came out and smiled at him. Assassin is taking care of Saber, but you should prove to be more challenging. So come to us, Issei Haidu. Ryder and Caster charged at him and Issei didn't see many options before him and charged as well. This would be a fight under the moonlight. Issei looked at both of them and weighed his options. I can't get very far because Ryder could catch up to me easily and Caster could pin me down with her magic. He looked to where Saber was no doubt fighting the assassin. I hope Saber wins soon. I could really use backup. Ryder lunges at him and tried to stab him with her chains. Ryder kept attacking with her chains and Issei kept dodging until Ryder had him cornered and leapt at him hoping to finish this. Unfortunately, she didn't notice a rock sticking out of the ground and as ran to jump at him. She tripped on the rock and made her attack stray off course. So when she came close to him, she landed on top of him with her chest smothering his face. Caster was appalled by this and saw Issei was trying to get Ryder off of him. MMMPH. MMPH. MM. Ryder was actually okay with this and hugged his body close to her chest and purred a bit at the th radiating off the boy. She knew from Caster that the boy had dragon powers and his kindness actually drew her towards him. She stalked him a bit after being freed from the Brat and got to know a few things about Issei. Ryder was a gorgon and dragons were reptiles like her. Maybe it was because of animal instinct or interest in Issei, but she liked this position, especially what was growing underneath her. Issei on the other hand liked this feeling, but still tried to get up from her heavenly pair. Caster on the other hand was both annoyed and jealous of Ryder. She watched the boy ever since he came into the city, his power drew her to him like a moth to a flame. As she observed him from afar, she noticed a few interesting things about him. One is that he is a kind soul who is naive in the ways of courting women, and 2, he holds a strong power within him. She wanted that power, but as she watched him awaken it and summon servants, she was drawn to him more than ever. It could have been because of the red dragon, but she wants to know him even more. Her wish could be granted in the hands of this man with limitless potential. She just needed to take care of a few annoyances. Caster drew forth her noble phantasm and teleported behind Ryder before stabbing her. I have no need for weak servants who disobey orders. I said to fight him, not cuddle with him. Ryder threw a chain at her which she flew back but reflected it with a barrier. Issei breathes fresh air and sees Ryder defending him. Wait. Are you helping me now, but why? Ryder looked at him and smiled. Because, I want you. My master. My Issei. She led him on the dot. Caster was glowing red with rage and jealousy because she wanted to take the first love from her favorite romance novels. Issei is taken back but relaxes into the, and her scent was alluring him to ring back. He did so and things got a little heated when his hands made their way to her ass and he grabbed it. Ryder liked this and ended with more love and fervor. Castor had enough of this and was about to attack them, but an explosion happened from the north and Saber came out with a few cuts on her attire and a shallow cut on her cheek. Castor quickly teleported behind Saber and nicked her with Rule Breaker to prevent her trump card from being released. Saber didn't feel this because of what she was seeing. Saber saw Issei Ryder and pictured herself and Sherm doing the deed. She shook the impure thoughts away and decided to break them up. Issei. The duo broke in and looked at Saber and Castor. Ryder signs. Can't have a moment's peace. Saber stomps to Issei and grabs his shirt. What are you doing? She's the enemy. Issei points to Ryder. She's actually my servant now. See. He reveals the command seals that he received from making the pact with her, and both Saber and Castor were shocked by this. Castor knew she was weak when it came to a fight, but if she could take out Saber and Ryder, then against Issei would be a piece of cake. She cast a paralysis spell on Ryder and Saber. The two couldn't move, and Saber couldn't use her sword because of Castor hitting her with a rule breaker. Castor floats into the air and calls her skeleton warriors to her and measures herself up to him. His power is bursting, but those cards. He hasn't fully released all of them. 4 are being held back. She looks at him intrigued. Perhaps I can wake them up by using words. She floats in front of Issei and stares at him. Castor spoke. I'm truly intrigued by how you're able to use the powers of the great heroes and villains. What makes you so special? Those gauntlets, the cards, why do the girls like you? Do you truly believe they love you? They're just using you, and once you lose that power, they'll abandon you then and there. Love is weak and useless. No matter how much they say I love you. They lie and betray you. Issei looks back at Ryder and sees the love in her eyes. No deceit or negativity. Just pure love with a hint of lust. He looks back at Castor and says, I know. Without this power, I highly doubt they would give me the time of day. I'm not good with these emotions, but one thing I do know is that I never stared at the girls with just lust. I looked at them because I wanted to know who they were on the inside and outside. Girls nowadays just want a pretty boy and only look at the surface. They don't know what their boyfriends say behind their girlfriends' backs. It disgusts me how they only see them as some more a night in the sheets. But they wouldn't believe me. They'd say I'm jealous instead of seeing the truth in front of them. What I truly fear isn't having a harem. It's falling in love. Everyone was shocked at what he said. Even the servants in the cards and Drake were shocked by the way he spoke. Issei breathes in before saying as if he was getting something off his chest. I've always been the loner type of person. When my friend Irina moved away. In this one, Issei knows Irina is a girl. None of the others wanted to know me. That was before I became a pervert. They only wanted to hang out with me when Irina was with me. My parents still love me to this day and tried to bring back my smile. I was hesitant at trying to smile because when I see a beautiful girl and want to help them. They say they don't like me because I'm not handsome or smart enough. When I went a little overboard with my perversion, I made a promise that I would only show my true colors to the girl who could make me smile again. None of the other girls at my school gave me the time of day, even when I helped them with either school work or help at campus. Do you know what they ask for? My life. They want me to die for being, and I quote, human scum. You're nothing but walking trash. You don't deserve to live or even breathe. Everyone was disgusted but didn't say anything and let him continue. I thought no girl, even if I tried to be a good person, would ever try to accept me and only want a pretty face or a muscular head. I decided to live my school life alone and have no love. I was going to give up on love until he picks you the cards. They came into my life. I felt all of their feelings and saw their memories. He started to cry. I truly felt the love and kindness from their words. Ever since learning of them, I thought of casting away my mask and finally smiling for the first time. I was happy they could accept someone whose soul is as impure as mine. But they still love me for who I am, not for what I am. He dries his eyes and looks at Castor. His eyes burned gold and crimson while the cards radiated from his hand. So I'm not a hero, a villain, a king, or a prince. I'm a human. I am. All of the cards glowed brighter, and a picture of a saint holding a flag with a symbol of a great red dragon in the air appeared behind him. A golden glow becomes one with him. All of the heroes in the cards join him and they all stay together. We are indomitable. A bright light covered the entire battlefield. Gilgamesh and Kirei looked in the direction of the temple and sensed a powerful aura. Gilgamesh smirks. Finally, he's awakened his true power. Kirei is shocked by this burst of power and is intrigued by the anomaly more and more. Sherm, Sakura, Rin, and Archer woke up when they felt a powerful explosion coming from Ryudu Temple. The 4 of them got dressed and headed out to the temple to see what happened there. Ilya was in her mansion playing games until she felt a burst of power. She smiles a dark grin. It looks like the games are getting even more fun. She looks at the giant behind her. Don't worry, Berserker. We'll have our fight soon. Berserker growls and watches Ilya start a game again. The white-haired woman that sleeps within the familiar forest woke up from sensing a familiar power. Another woman with black hair and has horns on her head stares into the sky. What's this feeling in my heart? Have I fallen in love? The giant that rests within the earth felt a surge of power. How long have I been asleep? What is this power? He gets up. I must know. Issei was covered in a saint's armor and had the flag with the dragon symbol in his hands, and on the other hand he held a scale. The funniest part of his new form were the bunny ears on top of his head. Jean from FGO in 3rd stage. Astria's scale and Artoria's bunny ears in her ruler form. Castor stares at his new form and squeals like a schoolgirl meeting her idol. The next thing Issei knew, his head was on Castor's lap and she played with his hair. Oh. So Ryder and Saber were very surprised at the sight of Castor. They thought she was a cruel and dark Castor who hates people, but seeing her now kinda freaked them out a bit. Then again they were wont to talk about their legends and acting differently. Curse their masters. Issei actually enjoyed being in her lap. He looked at her and wondered what she looked like underneath the hood. Castor noticed his look and decided to indulge him by taking off the hood of her cloak. Issei saw Castor's big purple eyes along with her long purple hair and elf ears that made her look cute. Issei lifted his right hand and gave her a head pat before touching one of her ears and tested to see if they were real. Sure enough they were real. Castor laughed a little at this. Issei asked. Castor. Why do you fight for the Grail? Castor looked at him in the eyes and gently caressed the side of his face and said. I've always wanted to fall in love. When I was alive, my husband cheated on me and I killed him, but in my rage, I also liked my own children. I want the Grail to bring my own children back. What kind of monster would kill her own children? She started to cry when she said this. I don't deserve to be a mother. People think of me as a monster, but deep down, I'm just a woman who wants to love once more. Is it wrong to want to fall in love again? Issei wiped away her tears with his hand and switched positions with Castor's head in his lap, and he was lending his lap to her. Castor, Saber, and Ryder were shocked by this, but felt different. Castor felt like she was in heaven, Ryder wanted to take Castor off of him and put her head on his lap, and Saber wanted to ask Sherm what a lap pillow means. Issei brushes her hair out of her face and edits her forehead. You may have done many wicked deeds in your past life, but now you are reborn. The past doesn't define you. It's your actions today that define you. Right now, you're not Medea, the witch from the Greeks. You're just a lonely woman who was dealt a bad hand and yearns for love. What if I could help you learn how to love again? He lifts her to her feet and crouches down, surprising all of them. Castor. He takes her hands into his own. Will you be mine for all of eternity? I will cherish you, and if you need to talk to me I'll be there to listen. When you need a shoulder to lean on I'll be there. If you need a reason to live then I'll be that reason. I'll become your family. Castor was surprised and cried a little before saying yes. Absolutely. 100 times yes. Issei stands up and sees her daughter were soft pillows and tasted like grapes with a hint of wine. Her is mesmerizing. Who in their right mind would cheat on a woman like this? Medea was in cloud 9 as she met her new husband. Such kindness and love. I do sense some lust in him, that'll be more fun in our honeymoon. She tasted her husband's and noticed a chocolate taste in them. Saber and Ryder were blushing at the proposal. Saber was amazed at the declaration. So bold. Yet so gentle. She thought of Sherm and doing the ceremony with him. A blush appeared on her face and decided to make Sherm her man. Saber made a mental note to talk with Sakura and maybe Rin about dating Sherm. Sherm, you'll be my husband. There were many sabers around her in cheerleader outfit saying go Saber go. Roar. Ryder in a burst of power fought off the paralysis spell and ran to Issei. She whipped out her chain and grabbed Issei by neck and dragged him to her. Once in her arms, she fed him with love once more. Issei was very surprised and edged a little when she was grinding herself on him. Castor was furious and pulled Issei into her chest. Back off snake. He proposed to me first so I get first dibs. Ryder growls and brings Issei to her chest. Wrong. I get first dibs and he seems to enjoy my chest more than your average washboard. Castor glares at her and tries to zap her with lightning but couldn't because of Issei. Issei has enough of this. He gets out of her chest and pulls both their ears. He puts them on the floor and says I love both of you, but I also have other women I love. He picks up the card. I can't deny their feelings and I won't hurt them. I want to be with all of you. Forgive this selfish man. He bows and the two start to feel guilty before looking at each other and saying share him. They went on both of his sides and hugged him. We love you. Sorry for placing a burden on you. Both of them fed him and Saber was blushing from this and asked hello. Can someone help me over here please? Her reply was a finger in the motion one moment. It was ended by a slow but soft clap from the sidelines. I have to admit. That was much better than any other melodrama or soap opera I've seen before in my life. Rin came out to the line of view with Archer smirking behind her and giving a thumbs up to Issei. Sherm looked at Issei surrounded by the two servants and thought of himself with Sakura, Rin, and Saber. He quickly shook the thoughts away. Great Issei's dream of a harem king is running off on me. Sakura went to help Saber and she thanked her and whispered in her ear. You love Shiro. I can see it in your eyes, personally I love him too. Want to work together and make that idiot ours. Sakura looked at Sherm and nodded with vigor. Sherm was wondering what they were talking about until the ground started to shake beneath them. What's going on? Everyone was looking around and trying to find the source until the ground broke beneath them as a giant armored hand came out of the ground. Another followed it and both arms pulled out a giant with gold plating and crimson marks appeared on its legs and arms. The head was that of a human, but with long antlers coming out of it, then the white chest opened in the middle, revealing a dark hole with a pink eye in the dead center. The figure stands and looks around at them and locks eyes with Issei. He points at him. I sense a great power within you. Who are you? Issei is frightened by this creature, but manages to stand up and speak. My name is Issei Haidu. May I ask who you are? The monster looks into the soul and raises his arms into the air. I am Gosha. I have awakened after being in slumber for many years. I sense a great power within the city. He notices the servants. Is the Grail still being fought over for its power? No one answered him. He sighs. I see. How disappointing. It would seem humanity hasn't changed at all since my slumber. Mankind still fights over power and destroys each other, causing more death to satisfy their own desires. He looks at all of them. I will take the Holy Grail and use its power to destroy all of humanity. Then I will rebuild it in my own image. Everyone gasped at this. Issei has to speak. Wait. Gosha looks at him. Not all of humanity is wicked. Sure, there are those who abuse their power, but not everyone wishes for a war. There are good people in this world. Gosha looks at him and has a sad look on his face. Even if the wicked ones are destroyed, there will still be darkness and a world of light. When there's justice and peace, there's always darkness and corruption. They coexist together. One cannot survive without the other. I must sacrifice all of the city to summon and use the Grail. Castor was shocked. But even if you sacrificed everyone in the city it still wouldn't work. Gosha looked at Castor like an adult would a child. I already know that. I need a Magus with great power, but not you nor the others. No. I seek the one who controls Berserker. Everyone knew he talked about Ilya. Sherm was shocked that this thing would go this far and harm a child. Gosha looked at the city once more before saying. I shall take my leave for now. But be wary that there are 3 others who will come to the city. Be prepared and count your final days. If you wish to stop me then come find me. He becomes a pillar of crimson energy and disappears into the air. There was no trace of him. There were a few spectators who didn't reveal themselves. Seraphil was shocked that Issei wasn't just a human with sacred gear, but the Red Dragon Emperor. She noticed how close the females were to Issei and her chest hurt from seeing that. Why does it hurt so much? Do I like him? A blonde-haired woman watches from the church. Interesting. This will be a war that will be remembered for all time. This Gosha though. Who is he? 2 more females were watching from the forest and were shocked he came back from his eternal slumber. The one with dragon features spoke. I'm surprised that Drake has a new host. One that is truly interesting indeed. He isn't like the other host who only seeks power. He only wishes to protect those he loves. The black-haired woman smirks when she hears this. My, are you perhaps falling for him? Tiamat blushed and tried to hit her partner, but she dodged it. So what now? Tiamat looks at them once more. Let's retreat and hide for now. We'll observe from a distance and when the time is right. She looks at Issei. We'll reveal ourselves to the dragon. Kiara smiles before opening a portal and walks through it. Tiamat looks at Issei once more and whispers. Remember me. The portal then disappeared. Sherm and everyone went back to the inn to discuss what the plan was. This isn't just about the Holy Grail anymore. We're talking about a monster trying to destroy the city and perhaps the world. Rin came in. We are going to need some help. Issei, could you answer a question for us? Issei was back in his normal form and nodded. Rin asks. What was that power and why are both Ryder and Castor clinging to you? Ryder was on his left and Castor was on his right. The two didn't want to be separated from him, so they stuck to his side to protect him. Issei picks up the Ryder and Avenger card and shows them to the group. These cards actually are similar to the other 7 I have, but they couldn't be unlocked unless I unlocked all of the others. When I was fighting Ryder and Castor, the cards actually responded to my words and gave me their power. I felt all of them in my soul. Protecting me from harm, it felt nice being able to feel it. As for Castor and Ryder, they actually decided to join me. But off that subject, we need to find Iya and tell her what happened. If what Gosha said is true, then even Berserker doesn't stand a chance. Issei looks at his hands as they shake. I felt his power. It was terrifying. He didn't even attack, but the pressure made me feel like I was about to die right then and there. We need to get stronger. I need to understand more of my power. Pastor, Ryder, will you help me? Both of them smile and take a hand in their own. Yes. Of course we'll help you. Saber looked at Sherm. Sherm. You must learn how to fight if we are to survive this war. This is no longer the Holy Grail war. It's a war to protect the world. Archer signs. Sakura is scared and doesn't know how to help but looks at Rin. Rin. I need you to train me in magic. Rin had a mischievous look in her eyes and said. I suppose I can help. But only if you're going to take this seriously. Sakura nods. I will. Rin gets up and makes her way to the phone. She types in a number and waits until someone picks up. Hello. This is Rin Tasaka. Listen, we have a situation that's a world threat level. Yes. Yes. No, please anyone but her. She sighs. Fine, but she better not get in my way or try to toss us in the fire. She hangs up. I just called the clock tower. They're sending help. One is reliable and I trust her, but the other is annoying and snobby. Always thinks she's better than everyone. Issei hears this and says, so basically another version of you? He had to duck from almost getting hit by a jewel to the face. Rin glares at him until the doorbell rings. Rin walks to the door and opens it. Hello, it's good to see you and of course my rival. Got a boyfriend yet or did he dump you? Oh yeah. Like you're one to talk. Where's the handsome engineer you spoke of? I sure as heck don't see him. A haughty voice carries out into the area. That's enough. We're here to get the situation under control, not fight like children. Understood. Same goes to Rin. They both reply. Yes, Mrs. Bassett. The woman with short magenta hair wearing a business suit that showed off her curves and a blonde woman wearing a blue dress that showed her upper body a bit came in and looked at everyone and the businesswoman asked. Is this everyone? Rin nodded. The magenta woman sat down and introduced herself. My name's Bassett Frogamakremits. I'm here to help. The war council has begun. From a mansion, a little girl smiles as she hears this. Good. Bring them to me. She hangs up and looks at the city. Well, Mr. Anomaly. Let's see how far you're willing to go for your loved ones. She laughs in the night as the giant begins her roars for the challenge. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Nefarious Doctor for writing that awesome fanfic and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.